Okay, so, what is your take on how a smaller boutique treatment center can give somebody a more personalized experience versus maybe a larger center?
Yeah, so I think the biggest benefit of a boutique style treatment, just treatment in a smaller setting in general compared to some of these large hospitals, large treatment centers. Not that those aren't good places for an individual, but when you get into a boutique style treatment, you can't hide out. You're held accountable. You can't hide out. It creates a family atmosphere. The groups are smaller. The groups are more intimate. You're going to be called out by your peers if you're not doing something right, or you have a lot more options to give feedback or ask questions to counselors. We can use our counselor, Jackie, and our clinical director to have much more one-on-one sessions to really work through things. You can talk about something in group and actually go right to the counselor you had group with and kind of work through that. Versus in a larger setting, you might have to get an appointment or you might not see them till later on in the week. So in a smaller boutique style treatment, the experience is going to be more geared towards how can I get the most out of this next 30 days, 45 days that I'm in treatment. There's not going to be a lot of hiding out. The staff to patient ratio is, 2-to-1, where 2-to-1 patient to staff, where in larger centers it might be 5-to-1, 6-to-1, 7-to-1 scenarios. So there's not going to be any hiding out. There's not going to be anything where you're not going to work on stuff or you're not going to participate in. Like, you're going to maximize what you're getting out of the 30 to 45 days.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I think to stick on location as well, Scottsdale in the foothills where the center's at, it's a very beautiful, serene location, just landscape-wise. What role does that play as well in the healing process?
Yeah, I think with our facility being located and nestled right in Scottsdale, it gives that luxury feel, that luxury vibe. But I think what's really cool and unique about the house that we have, which we were super lucky to get, is it's like a compound, right? It's a serene place that's in the middle of the Scottsdale landscapes. You have mountains in the background, you have all of that, but when you walk inside it, it does a really good job to bring nature in, to give you serene, a vibrant feel of, we got colors and lights, and we have green shrubbery inside. We have the moss wall, and then you step outside and you have your palm trees, and you have a green backyard. You have, plant life growing on the building. You have just a lot of things that make you feel like you're nestled in a tropical paradise while you're healing and recovery.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And what do you think having an upscale living space, a more luxurious experience, what do you think that does for the healing process as well?
Well, I mean, you can get sober anywhere. I see people who get sober on couches. I see people who get sober on the streets. I see people who get sober in homeless shelters. What I can tell you is when you have a luxury treatment center, it cuts down a lot of the avenues that people generally try to find, or reasons when their addiction is fighting them to not get sober, right? Like, it's late at night, I don't have a TV in my room, or I need sound to sleep, or, this bed's not comfortable. When you just cut down some of those things, it makes life easier. And when life is easier, you can focus more on what you're there to do, which is your recovery, your healing, working through trauma, working through anxiety, working through depression, whatever it is that you're suffering from or coming in with. We get an opportunity in a setting that's going to be super comfortable, that you're going to feel good about yourself in, to actually work on what you're there for.
Yeah, that's so good, man. And it is a nice location, and like being able to run groups in a movie theater and that kind of stuff. It's just it's a unique experience, and I think that's going to play a huge part in everything. Some other stuff that's offered at the treatment center as far as just like amenities go, like cold plunge, the sauna, the infrared, the fitness center in general, the pool. What role does that play in the downtime, right? In between groups and between programming, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so, I mean, we have an awesome exercise center, as you've seen it. And with that, it has the red light therapy with the sauna. And there's a ton of things that does, not only for your skin, not only for detoxing and things of that nature, but also just for your recovery. When we talk about the cold plunge and the sauna in tandem together, I think there's something super synergistic about those two things that really just goes together. You're in two different types of atmospheres, one that's extremely hot, one that, you get in it and it's super comfortable, but then it's like the longer that you sit in there, the harder it gets to stay. And sometimes that's how treatment is. Like, you get in there, it's super comfortable, this looks awesome, but now I'm in it and it's like the heat is on, right? Like, now I'm really having to work through some of this stuff. But then you go into the cold plunge, and the cold plunge has so many therapeutic things that it offers, not only with like endorphin levels, testosterone levels, things of that nature, losing brown fats, but what that does is it's a mental game. You've used it. I've watched you get in it plenty of times, but there's not a single time that I take a step on that stair, no matter how pumped all day I'm thinking about how I want to get in this cold plunge. But the second my foot hits that chair every single time to go back up and go into the plunge, my brain tells me, like, you don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And I could be pumped about it 5 minutes before, and the second my foot hits that chair, I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. And I think there's something to be said about putting yourself in a tough situation. Sometimes that's what recovery look like, especially early recovery.
Yeah.
I'm like pumped about it. My life is ruined. Like, today is a great day to get sober. And then that time comes where I have to like check into detox, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. So I think the relation to recovery with both of those two things is amazing, And then with the cold plunge, being opposite of the sauna with the heat, like the cold plunge, the second you get in it and you sit in it, it's almost excruciating. Your brain can't think about anything else other than I'm freezing. My toes start to hurt, my fingers start to hurt, and we don't have it that cold where it's hurting patients or anything like that. But if you want to crank it down to those levels, you're feeling these types of things, and your body's screaming at you to get out, get out, get out. And that's what it's like in addiction. And when you first get sober, your body's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. But like when you sit in it and you take some deep breaths and you catch your breath, and all of a sudden you just can relax. And it's so exhilarating to watch people step into that cold plunge. They get in and their body freaks out. Their mind freaks out. They get scared and they hyperventilate. And then all of a sudden when it's like a snap of a finger, it just hits them and they catch their breath and they breathe and they realize like, I'm okay. And like you sit in it and it becomes more comfortable the longer that you stay in it. Unlike where the sauna, it gets harder the longer you stay, but it's super easy when you walk in it. When you get in the cold plunge, it's the exact opposite. Now, there is also something to be said with the therapeutic value of when you go cold to hot to cold to hot. And there is some trauma stuff that goes along with that, that it helps work through. But I think just the synergistic approach between the cold plunge and the sauna and how those two things can relate to recovery and addiction, and you get in there and now you're out of the cold plunge and you're going into the sauna and you can really reflect. I really would love to make it, I don't know if we can, part of our AMA policy of when you are thinking about leaving because you want to go use or get high or get loaded or have a drink, that you jump in the cold plunge. Because I promise you, if you're obsessed about getting high or you're obsessed about drinking, when you jump into that cold plunge, you're not going to think about anything else. You're going to be right in that moment, and you're going to be thinking about like the cold and catching your breath and breathing, and you get out and those endorphins hit you and you realize that you're just okay. And then you can get in the sauna and think about, man, I almost threw this opportunity all away because I was feeling some type of way for a couple of minutes and I was able to get into this and now I feel completely different. So I would really like to make it part of our process. I don't know if we can do that, but
yeah, I feel like that'd be an industry first. I don't know that there's any other treatment center that has that part of their procedures, but I do agree. I think if you go into the cold plunge, I mean, whatever was bothering you before you got in there, it's outweighed by just like how cold it is. And there are some times when you get ice in it and then your foot hits the bottom and it's not even the bottom, it's just ice layer. That one hits different.
Yeah.
But when you get out, you never feel worse than when you got in.
Right.
Yeah.
Not a single time. And you're proud of yourself for doing it. You're proud of yourself that you went in it and that you had that experience, and every experience looks different. And that's the other cool part that's like recovery. It's like every experience is different. Sometimes you get in and I can stay in it for 5-7 minutes and I'm completely fine. It's a great sit. You know, I'm not thinking about a million different things, or I'm able to just find God in that moment. And I tell everybody that if you can find God in a cold plunge, you can find God anywhere, you know?
Yeah.
If you can get right here, right now, which is where he exists, then you can find him anywhere. But other times I can only last 45 seconds to a minute and I have to get out. And like you find acceptance in like, this is what I had today. You know, this is how my body's feeling today. Now, as far as the other amenities that are at the facility there, we have the movie theater, we have golf, we have the little putt-putt course thing, we have the pool, jacuzzi, there's a huge grass area, the soccer net, there's the back room there that we're going to have kind of a game room area. There's a lot of things to do. There's not ever a time where you're going to find yourself without something productive that you can be doing while you're there.
Right. And if all else fails, you could always read a big book, you know?
Yeah, you can get into the steps a little bit. Do your homework assignments.
Yeah, so more stuff that's like going to be offered at the center as far as, you know, bringing in yoga, sound bath, healing experiences, stuff like that. Why don't you just touch on those modalities as well?
Yeah, so first of all, we have probably the best yoga instructor that I've ever come across. Her name is Lauren. Shout out Lauren. She is amazing. And I had a conversation with her the other day. I stopped her on her way out, and I can't imagine, and I get to see it because I'm in recovery, and with the sober livings, we generally get to see kind of what that looks like after they've left our care. But she has these sessions with people, whether it's yoga or she does sound healing or she plays this really cool organ type instrument. That's from, I believe, like the Middle East or India is like the only place they make it for some of the sound baths and sound healing. She does human design, which is amazing. But I had this conversation with her, and it was, I'm so happy that I get to see what a patient looks like before they go into your group and then what they look like after. You know, you leave and you go home and you go about the rest of your day, or you go help more people, and you probably feel really good about what you got to see happen in that hour. But I get to see what happens with them in the next 8 to 10 hours. And like, there's a difference that's made in what she's doing with these people. Every single person that has been in that group has said that they've taken amazing things out of it. She really meets people where they're at, makes them feel comfortable, explains why they're doing certain movements and poses, or, you know, they're chanting in a certain way and what that represents and what that does. And she's super open to multiple spiritual beliefs. So if you believe a certain thing and you don't want to chant, like, she makes sure you feel comfortable in that. And the way that she kind of navigates that is just super impressive. But most of all, she has this energy and this vibe about her that it just attracts people. It attracts people to want to try a new experience. And I think that's what's super important about being in early recovery is it's trying new things. It's getting comfortable being uncomfortable and then realizing, hey, I can do this. Hey, I understand this. You know, hey, I do this exercise or I do this pose and now I'm stretched a little bit differently, but I'm feeling better throughout the day. I'm feeling more alive. I'm feeling more alert. My energy levels are up. You know, going through a gnarly assignment where, you know, maybe you worked through some trauma and you worked through some past pain, some hurts, habits, and hangups that you had, and then you go into that group and they get into her group sometimes and are super worked up. And to see that stress relief in those like levels go down of where they were at from just that 1 hour, it's amazing to see.
Yeah, that's so super awesome that you're offering that and bringing that into the center and just adding more things to do on site. Off site, you guys are doing a lot of stuff too. You know, different excursions every weekend and some other things. I mean, why don't you touch on what you've already done and kind of some stuff to look forward to in the future?
Yeah, so currently what they've done right now is the last 2 weeks they've done, I believe it was a glow-in-the-dark mini putt thing was what they decided, putt contest, and one of the patients won, so that was awesome. I think I had a staff member that was a little overly competitive that we had to have a lesson in winning or losing graciously.
Wow.
You know, but the teachable moment. No, I'm just teasing that. it was awesome to see that they were competing and that they could be friends and have fun in that patient to staff ratio or that way that they kind of work together. But last week they did putt in indoor mini glow in the park, dark golf. The week before that they did top golf. This week, if the temperatures are cooler, we were thinking of doing something up in Sedona, doing a little day pass up in Sedona. When it gets even cooler yet down here in the valley, they'll do hikes around here. But we have bowling planned. We have more top golf planned. We have just things that rock climbing is something that we're going to do that also, if you're not accessible to do that, they have some awesome little rope things that you can do of team building courses to do. We talked about doing an escape room coming up. Mm-hmm. So different events or things to push people outside their comfort zone a little bit in a safe, conducive environment so they can get the best and most out of their experience.
That's awesome, man. And that kind of segues into some of like the key things that make up kind of the programming outside of the individual therapy sessions and stuff offered on site. I know coming up, they're going to be doing like equine therapy experiences, different like experimental art things. Like, why don't you just touch on that part of the programming as well?
Yeah, so those are two things that are built into the program. So we're going to be doing equine therapy up in Scottsdale here, all by licensed counselors that are actually doing the therapy with the horses. And really just an experience of like how you relate to an animal, how you can work through, trauma, how you're reacting to something else that's in front of you. How can you work through, and guide an animal or just pet an animal and like that experience where it's something else that has, breath and a heartbeat that you can feel in large animals that they are. They can work their way up to different avenues with those horses, which I think is super cool as well, all under the direct, care of a counselor and someone who's working through that on that level with them. And then, another thing that we're going to get to do soon here and really kick off, which is one of the things I'm most excited about, because not just the experience and what they offer at Art of the Soul, but who Brandon Lee is as a human being. Like, I absolutely love this guy. I love his energy. I love what he does for the community, and I like to help people who are doing good things for the community of recovery. He's huge here in the Phoenix area. If you haven't seen them, please check them out. He's got an incredible studio. They have, lights, neon lights and club music bumping in there. And I don't care what you feel like, but when you walk in there, you can feel the vibration and you feel better. And they're actually now working with prisons and other treatment centers where they're bringing in studios inside, but it's art therapy. It's an opportunity for our clinician to go in there and watch patients as they can create art, and there's blow dryers. Nobody can do it wrong, so there's no place of judgment or anything like that. It's just fun experiences. And I got to talk to Brandon the other day about, a really close client that he was working with, and it was a guy who had trauma and had done stuff in that he really couldn't ever forgive himself for. And he said he got to see this guy break down and cry and work through, that pain, that trauma that he was holding on to. And he had said, I haven't cried for years. And just doing this painting thing, this paint project had made me break down and cry and brought tears to my eyes. And, hearing stuff like that is just, you're getting through to people and you're touching them in a different way. And it's how many different ways can we impact people, or how many different ways can we just try to open the doors of what's going on internally, away from all the external factors.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And those are going to be just like key things that like anybody throughout your 30-day stay are going to do. Like, those are built into the program. It's like some of the other stuff, like the excursions, are just on a weekly basis. But that is cool, and I'm excited to see like when that pops up, because I've always been interested in equine therapy, and like lately people are doing yoga with goats. Yeah. And I've been seeing that pop up a lot lately, and I'm like, I want to do yoga with a goat. Maybe we'll bring some goats in. Yeah. Do some yoga.
Well, I don't know how it was when you went there. You went somewhere during COVID. So when I went to rehab, I was told we had equine therapy and
and a pool.
And I learned a lot about expectations.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about expectations and acceptance. What we got were I don't even know if it would be called a donkey. It was so small. I would say I thought of it as a petting zoo, you know? So when I got to really go out into the world and see what equine is supposed to look like and really do a lot more research on the therapy and the actual informed results of what that can do, I'm super excited that we get to offer that to our clients.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's more than just petting a horse for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, there's it's under the direction of like some licensed counselors who know what they're doing. So that's cool. I'm excited to see how that plays out. Aside from all of like, these are like the fun experimental things, but the heart of the programming at Plugged In, the whole traditional part of the modern traditional is, 12-step base, right? Which has been around for almost a century now. And it's been proven time and time again to impact people and like really give them a new design of living. And a lot of the programming is kind of rooted in that. Why don't you just touch on what that would look like for somebody coming into the center and how you use all of these like fun, experimental, modern modalities, but then also with like the underlying message of, recovery.
Yeah. So with us in the traditional approach, we're going to meet people wherever they're at. Some people have had an extensive amount of time that they've spent, inside the rooms or outside the rooms of AA. Some people have a bad taste in their mouth from the 12 steps. And really, I don't care what program you work as long as you work it and it's working. But at our center, what you're going to be brought through when you walk in those doors is we're going to meet you where you're at. We do an honesty, a hope, and a faith assignment. And with those assignments, you're actually looking to the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous for, parts of your project and things of that nature that you're going to present on. So it gives you a touch of the book. And with that, you're going to have outside meetings that you go to. And we go through a lot of different fellowships: Heroin Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, CODA. We're going to CODA meetings, codependency meetings, because a lot of alcoholics and addicts struggle with that as well, or people who have anxiety and depression. A lot of those things are all correlated around codependency. So we're going to CODA meetings as well. And then we have people who come into the center and actually share their experience, strength, and hope, which I think impacts our clients the most. To see someone else who was just like them, who went through the exact same things as they did, who had the same thoughts, feelings, and emotions that they're having right now, but made it out to the other side and get to come back and share that experience with them. That might be the largest impact that I see on the patients overall. But we do have a traditional model of we're going to get to work, we're going to have fun, play hard, but we also work really hard while we're in group and going through those sessions. We also have a great clinician in Jackie, who is a veteran, and she's very, very trauma informed, CBD informed, DBT informed, so we are using some traditional modalities as far as that goes as well, motivational interviewing, things of that nature, to really get to the patients the best way that we can, and they are going to have groups in there that they're working through or talking about like big book studies or step studies. But really, we're going to meet people where they're at, whether it's Celebrate Recovery, whether it's Smart Recovery, whether it's any of these other 12-step or programs. What we want to do is we want to get people recovered. We know one way to do it that really works, so that's the way that we're going to push, but we are open to all modalities as far as that goes.
Yeah, that's good that you mentioned that, because it is a more traditional approach, especially now with a lot of centers and places going mental health primary and focusing hard on that. Being a center that's going to really hone in on substance abuse primary is something that not a lot of new centers are coming up with here. And I wanted to just pick your brain as far as how do you think all of the experimental, like equine therapy, like all of those like modalities, or how do you think that's going to complement or like even make the 12-step programming more effective?
Yeah, so when you're looking at our programming, what I really want people to see is that there's a method and a system of things that have worked for a long period of time that have heeded the best results. And there are a lot of new modern things on the mental health space that have helped a lot of people work through some serious issues. The more that modern medicine and modern science has gotten, that we can see more data and test results to back that up. With our programming, the 12 steps are going to be the base of what we do. You know, we're going to work through issues. We're going to, you know, take accountability for our actions. We're going to get to real deep honesty of where we are at and who we've been. We're going to find some hope that things could be different. And then we're going to have faith that if we put in the work and trust in something that's bigger than ourselves, that the results are going to be there. But I think by complementing the core base of what's already there with some new modern modalities and modern experiences, what it's going to allow people to do is have fun in recovery. And that's what I really want to do. That's what we stand for, is like recovery should be fun. Tomorrow we get to go to an awesome event that's a comedy show. It's a sobriety comedy show that's being put on in partnership with Gambit Recovery and those sober livings. And, you know, I'm super excited to be able to reach my hand across the aisle and Tom Fay doing the same thing, because they're doing awesome things over there. But like, these are fun events that are put on to help the recovery community, and recovery should be fun. If I get sober and I don't know what I like to do, if I don't know, like, hey, maybe I'm an artist, I just didn't pick it back up since like 3rd grade or 4th grade when I was making fun of it because I was too cool for school. But like, maybe I'm really naturally good at this thing. Maybe I should put some time into it. Or it's like, hey, I really enjoy being around animals. I really enjoy, like, this is what makes me feel good. This is what makes me feel calm. Like, I want people to do more of that. Maybe it's I do like to go top golf. Maybe it's like I do like to climb mountains or go on hikes. I want people to have experiences in sobriety, you know, yoga, Pilates, meditation, going to the weight room, going on walks, watching movies. I want them to read books. We want to give people more experiences that they can learn how to have fun being sober, because if you're miserable and sober, what's the point?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I think it comes down to, like, if you have to create a life worth living in recovery, or else you're going to be just equally as miserable, but like what you were using to treat that for up until that point is no longer an option. So I would argue you're more miserable, like when you're not like doing that self-discovery or like trying to make a life that's worth living in recovery, because then you're just miserable with like no solution, because drugs and alcohol were just the solution to the problem. Right.
And you hit it on the head.
Yeah. So it's just like you have to go out there and really like figure that out. And I think the main thing about the events and everything else is the networking aspect, because what we always say on the sober living side, and it's true for treatment, is that, you know, it's real easy to like have those connections when you're like living in a house with 10 like-minded individuals who are all trying to do the same thing, and you're like really immersed in it. But then when that time comes where you have to move out and like go out on your own, and you're not really as immersed as you were like in those controlled environments, it's about the connections you made. It's about the networking that you did. It's about all the people that you've met and like built relationships with. You carry that outside of treatment, outside of outpatient, outside of sober living. And that's the main value of like getting out into community, like going to meetings, going to these events, is building a network of like-minded people to like really like build your life with, you know what I mean? And it's like a lot of my closest friend circle has come from the recovery community, and just like things like sober living and different events, and just like meeting, you know, people that are trying to do the same thing. So yeah, that's really good to touch on, man. I wanted to ask you too, predominantly the staff are all in recovery.
All of our staff is in recovery.
And the benefit of that is it's one alcoholic addict helping another, right? Which is, you know, proven to be a very effective method. I mean, why don't you just touch on like, you know, Greg Bravo and some of the other, you know, leads at the on the staff and what impact they bring?
Yeah. So we have the best staff at Plugged in Recovery from top to bottom, from, you know, you and Desiree, who are both in recovery and do so much on the sober living side. And there's one thing, even before I get into all of the staff, that I really want to touch on that you had brought up, but it's that extensive network. It's that extensive network. There is, you know, when you leave our program, Plugged in Recovery is what it is, right? Like, you need to plug into that recovery community, get plugged in. There are a lot of different places out there that are really great programs. So I'm not here to ever say that plugged in is the only way you can get sober. But what I can promise you is while you're under our care, that we're going to get you to a bigger community that is getting sober. It's going to be having fun events. There's a alumni coalition that Heath, somebody who works, our admissions director, is actually the originator of, and started when he was at Chandler Valley Hope. And now the baton has been passed, and you have Monument and New Method and Canyon Vista, I believe Buena Vista, there is Pinnacle Peak. There's lots of these places that have jumped on and grabbed this baton to have an alumni coalition, because all of us have people graduating our programs, and all of us want them to get plugged into the recovery community, to have fun, pool parties and events like that, going to conventions together, doing these different events where people can get sober. Anthony over at Recovery Cafe, there's all these things that people can do to get plugged into the community once they're done being sober. And that community aspect is so important, so we don't have to feel isolated and alone in our disease. You know, what other disease out there, when I hear of people who are getting kicked out for relapsing and doing that type of stuff, like, we always give them the opportunity to come back, right? If they're honest about it, if they're trying to work through it. And no other disease out there would you stop treating if the symptoms were present, right? Relapse, the symptom is present of addiction. You know, when you were talking about, like, if you don't have a solution, it's the disease. If I'm going to be miserable and sober, or miserable and loaded, I'm going to choose miserable and loaded every time. So we're going to take the fun and put that into recovery. So, you know, your sober is fun, and you're living a life worth living that you don't want to escape every day from. And while that's happening, you know, you're really just putting days under your belt and time under your belt and learning how to face life on life's terms. And you don't have to be put in that position. But when you're dealing with a lot of community partners and people who are out there that are helping with the process, it makes it super, super easy. But that was just one thing I really wanted to touch on, because I hear this all the time, and it's so true of the recovery community. It's like, they welcomed me back after my relapse. And it's like, yeah, because we get it. We get it. We get that you messed up again. Maybe you need to go back to treatment. We'll get you into sober living after. That's okay. Like, we're not going to shoot our wounded. But not only that, it's like, you're a drug addict. You're an alcoholic. That is the disease. Your symptoms were present and you used. Like, how do we fix it, you know, and get you a solution so you don't have to use anymore and you don't have to keep going down this cycle. But to get back to our team. So Greg Bravo, our executive director, he's got over 15 years of experience in this industry. He's someone who's personally helped me get sober. One of the best programming guys that I know, who spent a little bit of time in the business development role, both locally and nationally. He's the cornerstone to what we got going on. You know, he is absolutely the rock where the structure starts. And I really love that about him, because the way that this guy can make someone separate disease from reality and really take the problem from here with the sick mind into here with the truth of their heart, and see how that disconnect of this mind that's telling them lies is fighting what the truth is in here. That to me is the coolest thing to see. We have Heath, who's our admissions director, who, like I said, was the starter of the Alumni Coalition. We have and years of experience. He was my BHT. He actually ran a step one on me, which I wanted to fight him the whole time, but he got me to see my disease and all the decisions I were making that weren't true, but also years of experience in the recovery community. We have Jackie, who is our clinical director, who is a veteran. You know, she's an LPC with years of clinical experience, with years working with drug addicts and alcoholics, who's had all of those struggles in her as well and in her family as well, who's huge into CODA, which is where she brings that piece in, and I'm so happy that she does that, but really helps people and takes time to do one-on-one sessions, to run groups, to actually be a leader, a little bit of a militant style leader, you know, sometimes in the house, but that's exactly what people need. They don't sometimes need a best friend, but they need someone who's going to listen to them and work through issues with them And it's really rare that you see a clinical director with that much experience who will still get in the trenches, run groups, and do one-on-one sessions. And, you know, it's just a huge piece of what we have going on. Then we have our case managers. We have Lexi, who's, can't say enough about Lexi, right? Like, she is the spark plug of this treatment center. She is the person every single day where people can't wait to see her smiling face, right? And she just brings an energy early in the morning to people. But also, she's the one who's out there fighting for them behind closed doors, right? Making sure doctor's appointments are set, making sure people are getting to places that they need, making sure court documents are filed in, making sure vision appointments are set, making sure medicines are picked up, making sure that family's being coordinated with, making sure that she's meeting new patients over in detox so they get to meet who she is and they can find out what kind of, you know, goodies they like. So when they're presented, we love to present people with like a gift basket, welcoming them in with, you know, maybe their favorite soda, their favorite candy, their favorite snacks, just some personalized touch and love. And she's finding that out, and she's going in and meeting them, you know, when they're in their worst, and letting them know, hey, you're going to see my smiling face when you get to the door. You have Jonah, who's out there doing a lot of work in the community right now, but is also going to be that person who's at the center, who's going to be talking to family members, checking in with them, letting them know what's going on, setting up. We have family group every Sunday, so they're going to be able to, you know, learn some boundaries and how this is really a family disease, and then have visitation hours, and he gets to coordinate all that stuff. And if you don't have a piece that is communicating with the family, that is having those boundaries and stuff worked on, that is stopping the codependent and the sick behaviors from happening, you know, and him who's just willing to like step into any group and run it at any time, like you need a team player like that. And it's really been great to see him flourish in the outside community as he's, you know, getting the community partners and things of like that set up, which has always been a goal of his. And we want to push people to do what they want to do. So that part's been really cool. And then down to our BHTs, you know, our behavioral health technicians, most of them have come through, all of them have come through the Plugged In Sober Living program. So they know our vibe, they know our culture, they know what we stand for, they know we want to help people every single day. They usually have been house managers at our houses, so they know how to manage a group of 10 or more individuals, you know, get them to do chores, get them to do groups on time. But they're all also addicts and alcoholics in recovery, and so they'll share their personal experiences. If you're out there, you know, having a cry and smoking a cigarette, they're going to be there with you and kind of work you through that moment, which is so important. And they're also going to be the one who's at the spades table, you know, with one of the other ones trying to beat you in spades. So they're those people who will take people to meetings, who will have a personal touch, who've been in the program themselves, so know exactly the right thing to say at the right time and exactly what you need to hear so you feel okay. And sometimes tell you what you don't want to hear, but what you need to hear in that moment. And they're really good at towing that line, which I love. And then we have you, who's on our marketing side, who does so much on the sober living side and our admission side. Most of the time when somebody calls me on the phone and they get me, they're always asking for Eric. And, you know, sometimes that's disheartening, but it just means you're doing a really good job out there. You know, you put on these amazing videos, you set up this stuff, you continually help us raise the bar of what this thing's supposed to look like, on the media side, on an individual side, as far as, you know, company and new age and things of that nature, which is like, you and I see the vision so well. Which I absolutely love, and you help push that vision, getting CRMs, getting stuff like that set up, which is so cool to see. And then the backbone of this company, which is, you know, Desiree and Senior. Desiree, who's in the women's houses, who's doing HR work, who's, you know, helping with rent and doing that type of stuff in recovery herself. She's an amazing mother. She's an amazing partner to one of my friends, Steve. What she does on a day-to-day basis and how she can manage and organize two chaotic people like me and yourself, and now Bravo and Heath and all of them is, bless her heart. But she is amazing. And we have Lindy, who helps with the house meetings, and then, you know, Senior, who's in the background doing so much dang work.
The heart and soul.
So much dang work for this company, you know. He's on the phone and in all the houses and doing house meetings and things of that nature. He won't be so much present at the residential, but we did just get him fully licensed and certified on the commercial insurance, so he gets to live out his dream. My dad is 11 years sober. His dream has always been, since I started this company, to drive the druggy buggy, or the Mercedes van, for people who don't know what a druggy buggy is, to meetings, because like that one-on-one moment where you get to talk to people on the way to a meeting, and then you get to share in that meeting experience with them.
It is an experience. A van ride alone with Senior is like an experience.
It's an experience. Yeah.
It's he loves it.
You get him on a roll, but then after, and like dissecting that is a whole nother experience. He can have laughs, he can sing songs, he'll tell jokes, he'll go on 5-minute tangents, but man, like that guy knows recovery, and he always speaks from his heart, and he's always a proponent of doing the right things. I've learned almost everything I know through him, so I'm super grateful for that, and how much he just believes in me and believes in this company. So that's been super cool. And then my extended family, the people who've believed in this project just in general, in this treatment center, with my sister, and Nate, her fiance, and my mother and Jeff, who've all, put blood, sweat, and tears in the background into everything as well. So I could never leave them out. And then all the family support, the community support. I always say, like, I'm just up here, but there's an army behind Plugged In. It's my friends that I've gotten sober with. It's people who work in other centers. It's community partners. Like, I think of them as all a part of the Plugged In family. And I think the more that we continually reach hands across aisles, and like the more friends that we make, and the more we realize that it's not about beating other people, but it's like, how can we help each other, and how many people can we both help? And then you turn around and you're just like, holy cow, like this thing's gotten super big, like how did this happen? And it's like, God made that happen.
100%. I think it's so funny. I see people who have never even like lived in one of the houses or anything, and they're just like wearing Plugged In shirts, like roaming around. I was just like, they've never even been in the houses. It's cool, people wanting to be a part of it. And I think that's worth touching on as well, because one of the biggest things when you launch a new center, or like you launch a new outpatient clinic, or even a new sober living, like, establishing a brand, establishing a culture, really like putting out there what you're about, and like people like being aware of that is like a huge part of things. And having the a little under 2 years of operating sober livings, and then building that to one of the larger players in the game, has established that brand. So like you're already like just building on top of something that was pre-existing. And I think that plays a huge role into, the success of the center. And why don't you just touch on how that's been, helping you with the new treatment center?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I can see there's a lot of people out there who would say, Wade, you're just about 4 years sober, right? You have had this sober living company for 2 years in September. You have just opened up a treatment center. Why would we send someone to you? Why would I trust my loved one with you? And like the reality of it is I have a team that has over a 50-year span of experience when you add it all together in treatment, and a lot of experiences in places that didn't work, and they didn't like things. They didn't like the culture, they didn't like the programming, they didn't like the results they were seeing. I've had an extenuous amount of time in my own life going through treatment center and detox and outpatient and, hospital, and getting on MAT services and doing all of these different types of things, right? So I definitely have I have a master's degree, a doctorate, let's say, in what doesn't work. I absolutely have that. Yeah. But I have a feeling through tried and true traditional results, as all these people have taken different angles, that with a team that has the experience and how to run all of these things, I know exactly what's going to work. Because the results have already been there before all the other foo-foo and before all the other add-on things and ancillary things got added. Like there was a core thing that was working for people that has been strayed upon. So when people say, well, why would I send my loved one to you? And it's because I have experience in what doesn't work, and I'm not afraid to go back and really hold true to what I know does work. You can see it through who we are as people, for what we do with the community, with what we've done with sober living and offering people a premium experience for a fair price, right? And to give people the best shot at success, to being of service in every single way, to go above and beyond, which is one of our core values, meeting people with gift baskets to make them feel welcome, to do these types of things that just take it up one more step. And that's a standard that we set for ourselves, to give out shirts to the community of things like that, of people that we believe in our cause and just want them to get excited about recovery. There's a culture that we've built, and people get excited about that culture. And that's what I really love about it. And with the team in place that we have, with all the years of experience and treatment that we have, and all the experience that we've seen of what doesn't work, we have a group together that all believes in the culture, I love hearing Heath and Greg Bravo talk about it, is sitting down and saying, if we could do it, and these are guys who have years of experience in treatment centers, years of experience. And it's like, they had those conversations over cigarettes or over, vaping or whatever it was, of saying, if we could start a treatment center, this is what it should look like. This is what would work. This is how we'd want it. And like, having the opportunity to make that happen is so cool. And I'm just super excited for all the people that we're going to get to help as we continue to grow in that process.
Yeah, dude, it is exciting to see everything that's kind of coming up, and we'll be doing these check-ins every couple weeks and whatnot, and just updating everyone on the things we have going on. Hopefully expanding a couple more sober livings as well. There's always a need for more. As we kind of wrap up here, what's one takeaway, or what's one thing that you want to leave the audience with, as far as upcoming things or things you're excited about or something like that?
Yeah, I would say upcoming things that I'm excited about. I'm excited to continually get this treatment center up and off the ground. I'm excited to look for location number 2. I'm excited to look for the partnerships that we're going to have. As far as what we're looking for, it's very distinct. We are going to work with people who we believe in, that are of service to the people that they help, that are willing to, go above and beyond to come out to the center. When you have counselors and things like that, the worst thing you can do is have us just try to refer someone to somebody else. And for that process to not be just a clean handoff of, they know who that person is, that they have met them before, that they're going to meet them when they go back out there, right? That call will never get made if you don't show up and meet them and have this greeting, from a door-to-door position. So what I'm most excited for is seeing our patients transition into other facilities and talk about plugged in recovery and the experience that they had when they were with us, because we see that in the sober living realm of things. Will we be getting another house or two for sober living? Absolutely. Will we be looking for a second location for the treatment center? Absolutely. I believe in this thing. I believe what we're about to grow, and I'm super excited more than anything for those partnerships that we are developing, that we've already seen, Modern Recovery, SOBA, Oasis Behavioral Health. These are people who have already, reached out and helped out to us, and Pinnacle Peak was up there today. It's these types of people who are there, who are helping us as we get started, and who are already doing great things for the community themselves. And I'm super excited just to strengthen a lot of those relationships as we grow, and they grow as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Lastly here, I just wanted to ask you, for someone who's considering, this type of facility, what advice would you give them as far as, what to look out for when exploring their options?
Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily what to look out for when exploring your options, as much as what to look for. Look for a place that's going to care about you. Look for a place that thinks of you and treats you as the individual. Look for a place that, might be uncomfortable or put you in uncomfortable situations, but is going to force you to grow without changing your comfort level of your minimum expectations of your surroundings. There are a lot of places out there. There's a lot of places that'll work for you, but I'll be hard pressed to say that you would not enjoy, love, and grow from your experience at Plugged In Recovery.
Well, awesome, man. It's good. That was good. That was real good.
Cool.
That's gonna make a good clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's funny when we're shooting these in my head. I'm like, that's gonna be a good clip.
I looked at the camera at the end too.
Yeah, that's good.
I never look up at it.
Yeah.
I was thinking of that.
You have to
last
break
time.
the fourth wall every now and then.
Last time I forgot that I was gonna try to talk to the camera a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that was good, dude. I like that. We'll wrap it up for this episode. What a little bit about the vision of Wellness Wire is what I see. It's a bi-weekly podcast, a longer form of content. Every couple weeks we'll get on here. We'll talk about Plugged In. We'll talk about stuff like that. But also, I think the main vision is that we create a platform where other professionals in the industry can talk about what they have going on. And I think that's a big vision of the show, where we can invite people, other founders of other treatment centers, or maybe like a Brandon Lee and what he's got going on, or like whatever it looks like, but people doing like all of these different things within the community and just giving them a platform to kind of just like promote that.
Yeah.
So we're going to have that going on. And so we'll have somebody on for the next episode after this and get that rolling. So that's something to look out for. Also, a lot of you are just watching us on YouTube. We're also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and iHeart Podcasts as well. So you can find just audio versions of that as well. And at Plugged In Recovery on Instagram. And that's about it.
Oh, yeah.